Great. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. This board is an elected, unpaid group of citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personnel matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We are always pleased when the members of the community attend our meetings. The board and the school district operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey State Board of Education. Each meeting includes an opportunity for those attending to comment on items on the published agenda or other matters of interest to them. The board reserves the right to limit the time allotted to public participation. Law limits discussion of individual personnel and confidential matters. We desire that our meetings provide useful opportunities for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending.
As required under the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046 et sequentia, adequate notice was given for calling this meeting. It was authorized by the Board of Education and forwarded to the municipal clerk Princeton packet and the Times on January 9th, 2020, and distributed to the schools and others on the standard distribution list. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. Board Policy 2230, recording devices, requires that we inform those attending this virtual Zoom meeting that the proceedings are being recorded. This meeting is not being live streamed. The representative of the sending district is authorized to vote on such matters that affect sending district students or affect the governance of the Princeton Public Schools, as more specifically designated in NJSA 18A38.8.1. In the event that this statute is amended, the law shall take precedence over the bylaw. Sending district votes pertaining to personnel actions refer to high school, central, admin, and district-wide staff only. Votes otherwise are considered abstentions.
Would you like to commence with the roll, please?
Yes. Beth Barron.
Here.
Debbie Bronfeld.
Here.
Dan Dart.
Here.
Jess Deutsch.
Here.
Betsy Baglio.
Here.
Ryan McDonald.
Present.
Michelle Tuck-Ponder.
Present.
Peter Katz. Daphne Kendall.
Here.
Susan Cantor.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the adoption of the minutes from May 26, 2020. Can I have a motion, please? Brian, second. Betsy, any discussion? If you could call the roll, please, on the vote.
Beth Barron.
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld.
Yes.
Dan Dart.
Yes.
Jess Deutsch.
Yes.
Betsy Baglio.
Yes.
Ryan McDonald.
Yes.
Michelle Tuck-Ponder.
Yes.
Daphne Kendall.
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item is, I guess, the last and final report from our student board members. Mateo and Charlie.
Hello. So we just have a couple things to cover that have happened since the last meeting, just pertaining to student council. So, the whole student body, I guess. So the graduation virtual ceremony is going to be held on the 16th. It'll be virtual. And I can't remember whether this happened, this has happened since our last meeting or before our last meeting, but students have been going to the school and getting filmed, receiving their diplomas and turning the tassel on their caps. So we think that the school has done a really great job trying to give us as close as possible to a real graduation ceremony, and I think they made it feel pretty special, which is great. Since our last meeting, there's also been the senior award ceremonies and the Gold Key Award ceremony, which were both virtual. And I was also able to present a Gold Key Award to Mateo. So congrats to Mateo.
Charlie had a wonderful speech, and it was actually absolutely lovely. So I'm so glad that you were my co-liaison for this year. So thank you.
Thank you. And now I'll give it over to Mateo.
Alrighty. We're going to conclude our last report by thanking everyone on the board for the hospitality all of you showed Charlie and I beginning of this year as we embarked on our journey as a student representatives. The work Charlie and I did this year to help address some of the most pressing issues affecting our student body would not have been possible without the support of the Board of Education. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much.
And in spite of the coronavirus crisis, we are really grateful that we were still able to be included in the conversations, and we were still able to report back to student council on everything that's going on in the district. And not only on behalf of me and Mateo, but on behalf of the entire student council, we're so grateful for this opportunity, and just like a great way to like hold a relationship between the board and the students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie and Mateo. I'm going to take the liberty here of bringing up the part of our agenda that says recognition and tribute of departing student board members. So I hope that the board will join me in thanking both of you for attending our meetings, for sitting for hours and listening to all of our business, but bringing to our meeting such an important element, which is the real voice of students. And it's to have you two sitting at the table, I know for me, it makes it a lot more real in terms of what we're doing. And I'm grateful for the time that you've put in and the patience you've had and coming to our many meetings. We have more and than ever this year than I think we've had before. And it's just been a real pleasure having you work with us. So thank you. Would other board members like to comment?
I would just I'll just jump in and say we are so grateful, as Beth said, to have your voice represented here. So thanks so much for doing it so thoughtfully and responsibly, and for coming to all of our meetings. We appreciate it.
And I just want to wish you both the best of luck in the future. I'm sure you're going to do great things, and I can't wait to see what they are. So good luck.
Absolutely. And I've known Mateo for a long time, and I've seen him fly around ice rinks since he was probably about 3.5 feet tall. And it's been amazing to watch his journey, like a lot of our kids, you know, who kind of grow and thrive in our schools. And it's wonderful, Mateo, that, you know, you've been able to serve in this role and do so many things for the district. And Charlie, I think that most of what you said about Mateo is true. And I wish we had recorded what they said about you last year with the gold key, because it's really been great to get to know you, and I'm grateful for all of your work.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you so much.
Gentlemen, what are your plans for beyond high school?
I'll start then. So I'm going to be attending the University of Miami. I plan to study sport administration there, but I'm still unsure of whether I want to do that or exercise physiology in terms of like training. I'm really interested in the business aspect of sports, especially marketing, selling the product. That's what I love doing. So I'm hoping that all goes well. Next 4 years, I'm going to be on campus. I don't know if it's the same for Charlie, but for us, we're going to have a few classes online while we're on campus, and then a few in person. So it should be interesting for the first semester.
Yeah. Let us know.
I will. We'll definitely keep you updated.
Yeah. And Charlie?
So I still don't know whether or not I'm going to be on campus or not, but I'm going to Georgetown next year and hoping, I don't know what I'm going to study either. So I'm hoping to, I don't know, maybe study law or something to do with government. Not sure yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, this prepared you well for
Charlie,
it.
I'm willing to talk you out of that. Let's talk.
Yeah. Congratulations, both of you. Thank you.
This is definitely a wonderful experience, especially in terms of public speaking, because it's one of the most important skills in life as well.
It is.
Thank you to all of you.
And I hope you guys stay in touch with us, and that maybe, who knows, in 10 years, in 20 years, you might decide and you find your community where you live and raise your families, and that you might want to do this type of service again, that you've seen what it's like. You know, I think all of us on this board would encourage you to remember this and hopefully serve your community when you are, you know, done with your education and settled down, and because this type of public service is really important. So thank you for joining it and doing it at this time in your life. So big round of applause, these guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next item we have kind of at the beginning of our meeting is something very positive, and it involves a very exciting project that was completed last year at the Johnson Park School. And let me just look at my agenda. Could I have a motion for us to consider, before we discuss this, the JW Amphitheater naming?
I so move.
Dan, and second Daphna. Are there, so we will have some discussion of this item, and I think there's some members of our audience who would like to lead that or go first. Matt, could you bring them in?
So they have just texted me that their coverage is very bad. They're actually not at home. They asked for us to read it for them. So I don't know if you have that. Yes, the reception isn't great.
If I have their letter to us, I probably could find it if I look.
I can pull that up as well.
It's on the agenda if you want me to read it.
Oh, well, I can. Yeah, they sent us a letter.
Oh, the letter.
It's right in the agenda, Beth. It's right there.
Well, this is actually from
I think that was the letter.
the letter. This is our press release about it, but it's a good one. So shall I read some of that? So just to give some background, we were contacted by the Johnson Park PTO, who asked us to consider whether it would be possible to name the amphitheater after Dr. Ginsburg, who has served as the principal of Johnson Park Elementary for 21 years and is beloved by that community, and they are grateful for all of his contributions. He is moving on to replace Assistant Superintendent Annie Gonzalez-Kosek, who's retiring at the end of June, and he will be joining the team at Valley Road. And what else can I read? Or shall I read from the press release? Daphna, you want to help?
I could just say that I spoke with the PTO, the co-president of the PTO, and they were, Bob, a little annoyed with your timing because, as you know, they just fixed the foundation of the amphitheater, and had they known that you'd be moving on, they would have taken the time to put a G in there. But I think that ship has sailed. We had some miscommunication, I think, with the PTO as far as I think they thought this was going to be on the 23rd.
Right. I have the letter in front of me. I'm happy to read it. Yes. So Bob, they did think it was going on the 23rd. So, and they're happy it's on tonight, but they just don't happen to have great reception. So let me read to you and to the public. It says, "Dear Beth and fellow members of the Board of Education, we are writing this letter to request approval to name the Johnson Park Amphitheater the Dr. Robert Ginsburg Amphitheater at Johnson Park. As you are well aware, Dr. Ginsburg will leave our beloved school in just a few weeks. Dr. G is the heart and soul of Johnson Park and has served the JP community for 21 years. He is not just the glue, but the very fabric that has made JP what it is today. He has weaved a tapestry of amazing teachers and staff, engaged parents, encouraged and delighted in their involvement, and has touched the lives of countless children unlike any other. Dr. G embodies our district beliefs and is a champion of equity and a force of good. He continues to instill a love of learning as he strives to make an impact on our children's lives. He knows every child and works tirelessly to leave no youngster behind. Dr. G will only be a phone call away, but he'll be missed more than we can imagine, and his foundation and legacy will continue to echo through the halls of JP for a very long time. We are seeking board approval to name the Johnson Park Amphitheater after Dr. Ginsburg upon his move to Valley Road on July 1st. And Bob, they did ask us to maybe do this secretly so they could surprise you and in the fall when they unveiled it. And unfortunately, we couldn't do it in closed session, but we are very happy to do it tonight.
And because we couldn't do it in secret, we just went ahead and did it as quickly as we could because we thought it was such a great idea. So here we are. So is there any other discussion? And we can vote.
Does Bob want to say anything?
Bob, would you like to say anything? Oh, you're on mute, Bob.
There you go.
Bob is unable to say anything right now. Thank you.
Why don't we vote and then see if he has anything to say
Let's do that.
after he learns the result?
So the resolution is, whereas Dr. Robert Ginsburg will be leaving Johnson Park on July 1st to serve as acting assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, whereas in recognition of 21 years of dedicated service to the Johnson Park community, the Princeton Public Schools will name the outdoor teaching space and amphitheater after Dr. Robert Ginsburg. So Matt, would you read the roll?
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Dan Dart,
Yes.
Jess Deutsch,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Michelle Tuck Ponder,
Yes.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Big yes.
It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Bob.
Thank you all.
Well, that was a nice piece of business for us tonight. Thank you for that opportunity.
Maybe we could, if we have to have, if we can have a board meeting in person and yet still need to be a little distant, I can think of a really nice place to consider doing
That's
that.
it.
And we will admit that we met Dr. Galasso there for the first time. We had a few of us standing 6 feet apart in your nice amphitheater. We probably shouldn't have hopped over that orange fence, but we thought, if not us, who can do that? So we felt it was important, and we enjoyed using it.
Thank you so much, really.
Great. All right. Now I will go on to the president's report, and I will be very short today, but I first want to just note that we as a Board of Education, we share in the collective anger and grief over the racial injustices that have targeted Black people and people of color for centuries, and that for too long, institutions of democracy, including our schools, have been complicit in continuing systemic racism that is insidious in our society, and that we recognize the powerful role that education has in teaching students and staff and administrators about the shameful history of inequality that has been pervasive in our country, as well as the accomplishments, contributions, and courage of Black people and other people of color despite these injustices. And we also recognize the responsibility that education has in teaching our students, staff, and administration to examine their own prejudices, our own prejudices, and guiding the hard work that is involved in changing these perceptions. And we must all admit that there is work to do and work together without judgment so that we, as all members of our school community, are valued and treated fairly. And as a board, I know we are in agreement that we wish to show our commitment to this principle through our work and through our deeds and not just through words. So with that, I would like to just move us forward with our meeting, but we keep that in mind in all that we do. And we felt it was very important that we made a statement about this tonight. And this is a difficult subject, but we want to talk about it and speak about it and recognize it. So with that, I will move on to our regular business. And I would just note that as a board right now, we've been very busy. We've met almost every week. And we have, obviously, first and foremost, in front of us is the restart work, and Steve Cochrane has been coordinating that with a group at the schools of over 35 people. He'll report on that. And that as part of that, we've sent a technology survey out in the last 1 or 2 days. And we do ask that everyone, if you've received one, that you please complete it and return it to us so that we can help have some data that will inform some of our planning. We also are in the midst of transition of leadership. And we just wanted to let you know that tonight you will hear from Steve Cochrane about the goals that we've set as a board with him and for the district last year in July. And we adopted those goals in September. And now in the course of most years is the time when we have an evaluation of these where we've come to. And so we wanted to do that in public. And I apologize for the phone. And as a board, we will be setting goals with Dr. Galasso when he begins July 1st. And Dr. Galasso has been meeting nonstop with members of our administration, with our educators, with members of our board, and has been transitioning and will continue to transition throughout June. So we are grateful for that. So we're in the midst of a lot of transition. We are also looking for a search firm to help us with the search for our permanent superintendent. And again, the timing of that search would probably take 5 to 7 months. We may have a candidate as soon as January 1st, or perhaps as soon as, perhaps it will take until July 1st of next year. But we are putting in the time, and we will take our time, and we will take care to find the right person for this district going forward. So that's really what we have been focused on a lot in the last couple of weeks. And with that, I will move it on to Superintendent Cochrane.
Thank you, Beth, and good evening, everyone. Can I share my screen, Matt? I'm able to do that?
Go right ahead.
Actually, before I do that, I need to take a moment and acknowledge, as Beth began, just the pain, the sadness, the anger, the need for action that has fomented in our community and across our nation since the killing of George Floyd. And I have done a lot of soul searching myself, as I know everyone here has as well. I've heard from my staff and from parents, from students, and I have the sense that we're in a war. It's a war that some have been fighting for generations. Someone I respect a great deal recently told me 50 years. And it's a war that others may be coming to for the first time. Maybe they thought they were fighting it, but realized they were standing more on the sidelines. And so there is this this desire that this desire to pick up arms and take action and do something meaningful. And at the same time, I'm acutely aware that we also have people who are wounded and lying on the ground, who are grieving right now, who want to take up action, but need time for healing. And I think a lot of us are sort of somewhere in between. And so as a district, we've reached out for help. I contacted Marceline DeBose, who did our equity audit, and talked to her. She actually met with our administrative team for 2 hours last week to help us begin to process what we are experiencing individually, what we need to do collectively. We took a hard look at how we as an institution are complicit with racism, and how we as individuals have a responsibility, and when we don't act on that, that we are complicit with racism. There's healing that our administrators are going through, and we recognize that all of our teachers, all of our staff, all of our students, our families need that as well. So I did want to spend just a second on some of the steps, some of the actions that we're taking, at least towards healing. And let's see if I can. Can you see my screen now? Yes?
Yes.
So tomorrow night, there is going to be a webinar here, a talking circle. Harim Atif Khan is from the Teachers College Reading and Writing Workshop. We're incredibly excited to have her be joining us. I think there's a link to this on the district website and an email that went out. We were able to get Harim to join us through the work of one of our teachers and a parent at Riverside who connected with her. We used the Reading and Writing Workshop at TC, that's our K-8 language arts program. But she is leading a session for parents on raising writer activists. And I'll just, because it's hard to see the text here, it says, how do we help our children make sense of the world when the world hardly makes sense to us? What tools for social justice and self-actualization do our children need to lead purposeful, fulfilled lives? How do we empower our children to protect the tenets of social justice, so critical for a peaceful, prosperous tomorrow? In a world riddled with social media amid a global pandemic, what does it mean to raise writer activists? She's going to be talking to parents about the power of writing to process feelings and to change the world. So it's one way of people coming together in a constructive way to begin to process so much of what's happening right now. One of our other consultants that I met with spoke with today, Dr. Tara Doty, who's done a great deal of work with us in the area of restorative justice. She talked about looking at our lives right now through the lens of trauma, the trauma of what we're experiencing with COVID-19, and the trauma of racism and killing as a result of that. So her work has been with helping staff and students process the trauma that they are experiencing right now. And we are looking forward to having her join us next week for a series of sort of talking circles through Zoom with our staff, which we're hoping to be able to offer at the beginning of next week, and then also with our students. Dr. Doty is, she knows our community. She's worked with us for years. She's very skilled in counseling and trauma and helping people express their feelings. And she wants to make sure that we also are able to take action on the things that people want to see changed. And so we will be listening carefully to the ideas that our staff have, that our students have, so that we can incorporate those into our actions, our goals moving forward. Which leads me, I guess, to a quick review of my goals for this year. I spent 45 minutes talking to the board in closed session about these, and I'm going to try and take about 5 minutes to highlight some of the things here. There are 5 major goals: advancing equity through student achievement, stewardship of our facilities, the financial stewardship and sustainability of our district, transforming child nutrition and enhancing our mission through food, and creating a new communication structure. When we set these goals last year, we had no idea that we would be facing a global pandemic. And on one hand, the pandemic short-circuited the achievement of a number of these goals. On the other hand, the pandemic highlighted, underscored the importance of each one in maybe a new way. Something as simple as enhancing our mission through food took on a whole new meaning when we were attempting to try and feed 500 students on the federal lunch program during this time of remote learning. Obviously, food, if you're food insecure, is fundamental to learning and fundamental to equity. And so, that goal took on a whole new meaning. I'm going to highlight just a few of the things that I think we were successful at, and maybe some of the things that I would like to see move forward if the superintendent, if Barry and the board feel it makes sense. So we did a great deal in the area of achieving equity. We had goals around restorative justice and restorative practice. The practice is building the relationships, and the justice is what happens when those relationships get broken. How do we restore them in a meaningful way? And so we did a great deal of work in training our staff, our counselors, our equity teams in restorative justice, restorative practice. The piece that I would love to see us move forward on, that we were just beginning to do, is around bias reporting, and ensuring that when people report bias, that they have a clear way to do that, but that there are a cadre of trained people to receive those bias reports and to counsel people about the right steps for them, empower them to either seek if it's a disciplinary consequence, if it's mediation, if it's just the opportunity to share what they're feeling with someone, we want to make sure we have trained counselors to receive those bias reports. We're working with Dr. Doty. We had that plan for this March. We will continue our training of those people through Dr. Doty's work over the summer and into next year. Culturally responsive teaching, we really focused this year on what are the specifics. When we say culturally responsive teaching, what does that really look like, sound like, feel like in a classroom? Looking at data, looking at curriculum, looking at the relationship that teachers have with families, looking at the physical arrangement of the classroom. So we trained our administrators in that work. We put the elements out to our teachers, and we looked at ourselves as equity coaches, and that work, responsive teaching coaches, that work will continue next year, particularly as we have achievement coaches as part of, 2 achievement coaches as part of the budget for next year. Response to diverse learners is our special ed program review. We're excited we started that. COVID came in place, remote learning. We put a pause on that. We had hoped to finish in June. We're going to be extending now through next year. It's going to involve focus groups with parents. It's going to involve focus groups with teachers, classroom observations, those kinds of things. So we'll get more of that work done. Enrichment for All was our G&T focus program, but with an equity lens. So this is one where we're looking at through the multiple intelligences and all the ways that our kids are smart and how we can tap into their strengths, focusing on our students' unique strengths. So that's the term we use, focus. So that moved forward this year at the elementary level in grades 3. We wanted grades 4 and 5 this year, but the COVID crisis sort of cut that short, but we will pick that up again next year. I know that Dr. Ginsburg is trained in this kind of work and is eager to take the mantle from Annie and continue our efforts to ensure that we're providing enrichment for all. The equity dashboard was something that we really wanted to have in place, consistent with the board's goals around having clear data to see what we need to do and whether what we're doing is effective. So we have begun to put together multi-year data related to achievement, students' access to honors courses, participation in the arts. We have attendance data on students, recognizing that when we have students who are chronically absent, who miss a lot of school, there are lots of reasons for that. Some of them are economic barriers, and some of them may be barriers of bias. So we want to pay attention to that. We have multi-year data on our hiring and multi-year data on how our distribution of students by ethnicity and how that compares with our teaching staff, our support staff, our administrative staff. So we look forward to processing that data with our administrators and our board committees and pushing out what we can for the community to see and we'll continue to do that. The piece that I'm hoping we can pick up on that we didn't get to this year that we wanted to was some kind of a survey of an inclusion survey for students, for staff, for parents to get a sense of how welcome they feel in our school and in our district. And I think that data will be important to have and to get on a regular basis. Facility stewardship, this is referendum oversight, which I think anyone who's tuning into this board meeting knows how closely we have paid attention to all aspects of the referendum, from bidding to building to finance. And I'm grateful to Matt and to Dave Harding and to the co-chairs, to Brian and to Susan for their work, and to the community for being involved in this. Energy efficiency, we were talking initially about the ESIP program, which is a state program. Dave Harding came in as our director of facilities. He's got 2 other programs that he's using. He's moving full speed ahead in this area and trying to look at LED lighting and control systems for our HVAC units and other things that we can actually save money and improve the environment. So we're moving forward with that. Planning for growth, that's our work with our consultants, M&M, looking at enrollment moving forward. We got started with that. We had to stop because of the COVID and the remote learning, the Zoom world that we were now living in. We're going to pick up again with them, but focused on more shorter term goals. What are we doing in the next 3 to 5 years, and particularly focusing on the growth at the middle school and then shortly at the high school. support of pedagogy. That's if, as we look at we didn't get to that this year, we will. Really looking at best practices, looking at how our buildings and our spaces can support best practices. We have a lot to learn from the COVID crisis as in remote learning, as we think about leveraging technology and using our facilities adequately. And the maintenance of our facilities, really want to thank Dave Harding for his work to, when he came in, got us right on track with preparation for our QSAC review by the state, which we passed with flying colors. A lot of small things that make a big difference, whether it's, fire safety regulations or fixing plumbing and, broken fixtures, those kinds of things are being taken care of. Next year, we're going to have a fully functioning software program that's going to allow us to track this much better. Financial stewardship and sustainability. Most proud here of the budgeting work that we did. We shifted to a priority-based budgeting where we started with our values, particularly around equity and student achievement. Started the process earlier. We looked at a multi-year way of getting to our goals. We didn't have to do everything all in one year, and we stayed within our means. We made sure that whatever we were recommending, we had the revenues to support. We ended up presenting a balanced, this is pre-COVID, presenting a balanced budget that did not reduce any staff and actually enhanced our efforts in achievement. So I'm proud of that work. There's a lot more that we have to do, obviously, as we're looking at the looming insecurity, financial insecurity that's coming with the response to the COVID crisis, potentially lost state aid and additional expenses. But that highlights, again, the importance of community partnership. And I really am grateful through the COVID crisis how so many organizations came forward to join with us to do the work that we need to do. I think coming out of COVID, as we reopen, we're going to need even more community partnerships to feed our kids, to provide childcare, to support with technology. And so we look forward to having those conversations moving forward. We implemented some savings this year in the RX program and our use of substitutes. We strive to generate more revenues through our really proud of the grant we received from the state for early childhood and the pre-K work that we're doing. So now we're able to offer free preschool and bring in funds to do that. And then advocacy, we're going to need to do a lot of that as a board. We started that this year with joining the Garden State Coalition, another 100 other districts that are focused on funding issues. And obviously through the COVID crisis, we're going to need to be doing more of that advocacy. Mentioned briefly about enhancing our mission through food, and I'm incredibly grateful for Kaylee Dixon, who's the food service director from NutriServe, and how she, before COVID came in, we have a group that we call the Kitchen Cabinet of administrators and parents and community members with expertise in nutrition and food science, and we developed menus that were better quality food that spoke to cultural diversity, sustainability. We developed a survey that we were supposed to put out in March that we'll have to wait till next year. But the real effort came when we went out on remote learning, when we had to figure out a way to feed our 500 students. And quite honestly, the program we have in place where we're providing really high quality, freshly prepared meals once a week to our students for all 5 days. We deliver once a week. That is, and then we're getting to 90% of our kids, which now the national average is 30% during this remote learning time for other districts. So I'm really grateful to the way our community came together and was led by Kaylee in that effort. And then the last is the communication structure. We ended up dissolving our director of communications last year, that position as a budget savings measure. But we were able to work with Elizabeth Collier, and we hired 3 university interns, and we're able to push out actually a lot more on social media, celebrating our students, our staff, the learning that's happening in our district. We were able to respond, I think, more nimbly when questions came up. We have an email address that questions came to, and Elizabeth would make sure she got answers back to people. So I'm grateful. The work we did press conferences, we reached out to the Witherspoon Jackson community. They invited us to present a few times. I think we need to do the same with our Chinese community, and I know they would welcome that, and that would be beneficial for the board. And as we move forward, I would once again highlight maybe the need to do a survey so that we get a sense of how people want to get their information, and we can also learn more about the changes they would like to see. So that's really the 5 goals. And since I don't have that many more board meetings, I do want to highlight how proud I am of this mission that we developed, and the actions that we continue to take to ensure that all of our kids are leading lives of joy and purpose. There are not many mission statements that speak to joy and purpose, and I hope that is one of the legacies that I can leave as I move on and as the district continues. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. How do
I stop sharing, Matt?
Oh.
Oh, wait, I see it up here. I'm back.
Well,
Oh, good job.
while you're figuring that out, I want to just thank you, as I think we all do, for the incredible amount of work you've done this year and every one of your 6.5 years you've been with us. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for managing and bringing together a really incredible team. You've got Annie and Mickey and Mike and Matt, and Dave and Elizabeth, and I could recite, dozens of names of the people that you've brought to this district and fostered and managed and developed, and the team that you've created for us is just something that will obviously outlive your time with us, but we're grateful. And we're grateful for all the work. So does anyone want to ask any questions about the report? We had a good discussion of this in closed session, so I appreciate that. Steve, did you have anything else you wanted to speak about?
Just, I'm continuing to, you mentioned Barry is working really hard in meeting lots of people and learning the goals and direction for the district. He and I are spending a lot of time talking about the reopening of school, and both at the district level. We have another meeting tomorrow of our reentry leadership team. There are about 35 of us now on that team. Once again, it's subcommittees focused on physical health of our staff and students, the emotional health, and then the educational health. So we are thinking through various scenarios that will make sense as we reopen in the fall, and hopefully we'll have more information to share within the next couple of weeks. I know that Barry had an opportunity to speak to some parents today and talked about making sure that he holds information sessions with people over the summer to share ideas, to get feedback, and to make sure that people are informed and that we are informed by their ideas as we move forward through this with this work.
I just make one note. I thought that was very comprehensive, Steve. I thought it was a good testament to your enormous capacity for hard work and your commitment to doing anything and everything that would improve the opportunities we provide for a great educational opportunity. I would just note that you mentioned on a couple of occasions that some of the goals didn't reach the end point because of the coronavirus, and that came after you announced your retirement. And while I don't mean to jump the gun by offering plaudits, I would just note that from experience, when some people announce their retirement, they get pretty comfortable pretty quickly. And I've admired the way you have sprinted to the finish and have really stepped up at a time when other people would have been sitting down to do the very best you could for the students, for the teachers, and for the staff at this challenging time. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. And I also wanted to mention for anyone who's listening tonight who might be interested in sharing their thoughts and with Steve about his work or their thanks with Steve, we are collecting written notes to Steve through our communications website. So if you write to communications@PrincetonK12.org, Elizabeth Collier is collecting those notes and we will share them with Steve. So given the strange environment where we can't be together physically, if you would like to pass on your regards to Steve, that would be most welcome. So thank you for that. I believe that brings us now to the public. Yep.
Can I ask one question? Thank you. Steve, thank you for that. And thank you for everything, as we'll continue to say. I just wanted to pass along a comment. As I listened to you speak about the equity dashboard and about the data, I was at a conversation in the community this weekend that was focused on response to police violence. And a member of the community who's a graduate of our school district, when he heard someone who was speaking talk about data, his response was, data? Like, we've been telling you the story of our experience for so many years. Are you hearing us? And I just thought it was a really interesting and important comment. And I know that we are within the schools hearing so many stories of the experience of our students. And I am both excited to see that we have the beginnings of the dashboard in place. And I just wanted to bring that comment forward so that we can, as we continue to build the dashboard, I hope that there's a way that we can capture the stories because I think the stories are, in a lot of ways, the data that we want to be paying the most attention to.
And I would just add, one of the things that I've always said is that numbers tell a story. So the idea is that the data itself, looked at over time, you see the patterns emerge, and it tells a story, and it forces us to ask questions that we can't ignore. When we're looking at the disproportional classification of students of color, and we see that number, it forces us to ask some hard questions, but there's stories embedded in those numbers, and I think it's really important that we always think of them together.
And as we often say, we're not like a corporation where we deal in widgets. We deal with people, with children, right?
Yeah.
Well, everything's about children. It's a lot different than units of that other people think about. Okay, I think that takes us on to public comment. Matt, do you want to introduce? If you would like to make a comment, we now are opening it to the public forum. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, that you state your name and your address. And this is not a Q&A. We will listen and hear what you have to say. And afterwards, if it's appropriate, one of our administrators may address a question, but we are not, this is not a Q&A session. Thank you.
I think one of our administrators wanted to say something. Keisha?
Yes, good evening, everyone. As the supervisor of language arts, currently from preschool to grade 8, it is in my best interest to amplify the announcement about tomorrow night's event. And so I just really want to give a little brief history of how we became privileged to have this activity, which we've been circulating inside the district. And I'm so happy to see that Steve has now made it public so that it has an even wider audience. But I do want you to know that this event tomorrow night and the talking circles, which are an outgrowth of work in Geeta Varadarajan's classroom and her current partnership with the PTO co-president, Ann Lord, really grew out of writing workshop. And so this all came from her poetry celebration at the end of last year. From that, they decided to begin having a community forum because the parents were so impacted by it, so that they could have more opportunities to come together and share poetry. And that led to even deeper conversations, which being completely responsive to this time have become virtual. And so they meet every Wednesday night, and Geeta has brought in people from someone who works with the woman who talks about minimalizing your environment. I don't remember her name right now, but she's had that person come in. They've had someone come in to talk specifically about SEL. And tomorrow night's guest speaker is actually Geeta's best friend. And her is a very powerful a professor and presenter at Columbia University. And so I really want to encourage anyone who's able to participate tomorrow night. I want to amplify the fact that this is some strong work happening in Gita Varadarajan's classroom over at Riverside. And I just want to let you know that, you know, these are practices and this is power that our children are learning, and that can really, as we see by tomorrow night's activity, which has been part of an ongoing conversation, but can really impact our community and hopefully our world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keisha.
Thank you. Ms. DiCarlo, Stephanie DiCarlo.
Hi, this is Stephanie DiCarlo. I just wanted to pop in. I was nominated, or I guess approved at the last board meeting for the—
You're approved.
Yeah. And I've been following the board for a while since the crisis happened, given obviously my interest, and I'm very excited for the work you're doing in equity. And I know last meeting was very lengthy, so I wanted to stop in today just to introduce myself and just say that I'm very proud of the work you are doing. And I think that I'm very eager to get involved and see what we can do for staff and students and the community as we move into the fall with all of these uncertain times.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was wonderful for you to come back for yet another meeting. Great to hear from you.
You're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I love to hear what's going on so I can make sure that I'm ready to jump in with 2 feet on July 1st. I think that what's happening in our world is really terrible, but also amazing at the same time, that we can be a part of the change that for sure is coming, and make sure that it keeps getting heard over and over and not let it go silent for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kip Cherry.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to make just a few comments about the bathroom concession stand. And as Beth and Steve have both referred to, with COVID-19 and the George Floyd murder, we are in unusual times, and this is not business as usual. Respectfully, $530,000 for a couple of bathrooms and a bare concession stand deserves another look. This is a great deal of money, and if we can reduce the cost, we should do so. Given that many people in Princeton have most likely been suffering economically and in other ways during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have a real responsibility to be careful with taxpayer funds. We also know that there is a lot of need in our community among students and their families, and you've discussed quite a bit our food aid program, which is a very good program. We also know that our business district has been suffering major economic losses, and it's a real possibility that our tax collections will be down as we begin to move into the summer and the fall as federal aid runs out. Also, it is very possible that the BOE will have to cut back on its budget because of a reduction in school aid. And there's always the possibility that there could have to be some layoff because of that. So we know that there's a tough ride ahead. I think it is critical not to look at obvious cuts that might improve the bathroom concession project in this environment. At $530,000, an amount with which BOE could construct a whole house, on the face seems unnecessarily expensive and would in fact be better, would be a better long-lasting building in my view if it was redesigned using the enhancements and quality materials that were discussed at the facilities meeting just a few days ago, such as using wood frame or steel studs instead of masonry. And there are many other ideas and suggestions that came out of that meeting. We had a very good public discussion last week on this, and it was generally understood, I thought, from that meeting that the BOE was going to take time to improve the project and reduce its cost. And I am extremely disappointed that you would set aside the results of this meeting, and I ask you to reconsider. Although the bathrooms concession stand was bid under budget, the overall referendum is way over budget. If there are savings that can be gained from this advantageous reductions that we're suggesting for the bathrooms concession stand, we should take advantage of this. Why not? Finally, again, I think we need to show more concern for those less fortunate in our community and how we spend tax dollars, and take the time to reduce $530,000 cost of 3 bathrooms and a concession stand. If we use fast track construction and push the architect to move quickly, I think there is a good possibility that the redesigned building can be constructed close to the original schedule. Thank you for hearing me out, and I feel strongly about this, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you, Kip. That's actually been taken off the agenda for tonight. We won't be hearing
Oh,
that.
why didn't you say so?
You were doing so well.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the public at this time? I don't see any. Beth.
okay. I'll put my glasses on. I can see better. All right, we'll move on then. And because we are doing, we have 2 meetings a month, and this is our mid-month meeting. We are not doing committee reports unless anyone has anything urgent to report to us. Otherwise, we'll have our reports at the end of the month in our next meeting on the 23rd. So the next item then is board business for the 2021 budget year, item J. And these are, I think there's, now we're going to be doing consent items. And so if you want to discuss or have questions, please just stop me, but I'll slowly read through the items, okay? So item J1 is the appointment of other district officials. Item 2 is appointment of treasurer of school monies. Item 3, approve the uniform chart of accounts. These are all standard things that we do each year. Then we go to item K, personnel. First item is summer hiring. Second is job description manual. Third is appointments. Fourth is retirement. Fifth is athletic staff appointments. Sixth, tuition reimbursement. 7, personnel items. 8, student services. 9, sidebar agreement with Princeton Administrators Association. 10, retirement tribute. Steve, did you want to say something there? I note that we are here now recognizing the retirement of, it looks like about 15 people with combined years, 266 combined years of service to the district, which is really a wonderful thing. And we're grateful to all of those individuals for all of their service and their years given to our students.
We are, and we have we've shared about many of them during the course of the year.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Then we go to item L1, Invo Healthcare Associates. L2, Invo Healthcare Associates Speech and Language. L3, Wilson Reading and Language Services. L4, Professional Consulting Services. And then we go to M1, Financial Reports. M2, Authorization to pay bills and award contracts. M3, Transfer to current year of surplus to reserve. M4, Facility Use Annual Term Agreement with the adult school. M5, Resolution increasing the bid threshold of the qualified purchasing agent. This reflects a change in the statute. M6, NJSIAA membership. M7, Annual Integrated Pest Management Service. 8, Omni Group Third Party Administrator. 9, School Athletic Physician. 10,
I'm sorry.
yes.
I just had a question about that. Steve, do you think it would be prudent to add the school physician onto our reentry task force?
He is. So he's not on the leadership team, but when the nurses are meeting with Mickey around the health related things, they're consulting with him. If I have yeah, I can't have everybody on the.
No, but he's involved.
He's involved. Yes. Yeah. Good question though. Thanks.
Okay. Then 10, school breakfast lunch prices. 11, travel reimbursement. 12, send receive agreement.
Can I say something, Beth? Yeah, I just want to thank Matt for spending a lot of time and energy and including in this annual agreement with with Cranberry, the resource center costs. And I'm really happy that this is now part of the money that we will be getting back every month. Because we left a little bit on the table a few years ago. So Matt, I would just really want to thank you for including this and having this as part of our money now. So
Thank you, Debbie. I think we actually separated this out as a separate item for action. Matt, could I have a motion that we vote on this one? Can I have a motion from someone? Brian, second. Debbie? And should we call a roll on this one? This is the, again, we're item 12, the send receive annual tuition. It's required by law that we set this. It just explains the money that's going back and forth between us and Cranberry.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
yes.
Dan Dart,
Yes.
Jess Deutsch,
Jess, yes, she says yes. You're muted.
Sorry, yes.
that's okay. Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Michelle Tuck-Ponder,
Yes.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Yes.
I
Motion
think I was skipped. I was skipped, but I'm a yes.
I apologize, Betsy.
No
Bagley.
problem. No problem. You're
I
just
checked-
trying to move a quick
I
meeting.
checked
that's
your
all.
name and didn't call it out.
No worries.
Thank you for speaking up.
Great.
Motion
Now we're on item 13, which is the acceptance of a donation from Firmenich. And this is actually, I just want to speak to this one because this came to us through a parent in the district, Sabine Fanciano, who works for Firmenich, and she arranged a meeting with us to speak with their leadership of North America, and they have generously donated us a remarkable amount of hand sanitizer, and we are grateful to them.
Remarkable amount.
Yes. And we are also grateful they have offered to just as an ongoing basis, just to provide us with know-how and consulting on how they've dealt with coming back into their work environment. And they are a leader in the world, I think, in some of their policies, and have put a lot of effort into figuring out how to do it in a safe way. And so we had a nice conversation with them, and I know that they've made themselves available to our reentry team, and we really appreciate that. So thank you, Firmenich.
Another wonderful example of the importance of community partnerships during this COVID crisis and as we reopen.
And yeah, we're grateful. We learn from our community partners and whoever wants to talk to us. We appreciate that. So anyone else wants to talk to us, we'll meet with you.
Or donate hand sanitizer.
That was such an exciting idea there. Okay, next one is item 14, travel and related expenses. And then that brings us to the consent vote. Matt, can I have a motion for the consent vote? Somebody. Michelle, second. Brian, and Matt, would you call the vote, please?
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Dan Dart,
Muted.
You're muted, Dan.
Dan?
Yes. Yes.
Jess Deutsch,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Michelle Tuck-Ponder,
Yes.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes.
Thank you. That brings us to our second public comment on any topic. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Again, we ask you keep it to 3 minutes. Tell us your name and address. It's not a Q&A. Matt?
Going once. I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Okay. That brings us to our closing comments. I just have one item that I said I'd bring back to us, and that is our meetings in the next weeks going forward. We have a meeting on June 11th. That's this Thursday, I believe, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Matt, am I correct? Or is it 6?
It's 7.
It's 7 to 8:30. We may not need all that time. We are going to meet in closed session to talk about priorities for our interim superintendent. Now that we've heard where Steve has left off, we want to make sure as a board we understand and we're on the same page in helping determine priorities for his time. So we will be meeting this Thursday. And then we need to pick a date in July, because we don't know for sure if we need a second meeting, but given all that is going on, I think we all like to have a date reserved. And the question I think had been posed to the board, and I'm not sure that Patty got a response from everyone, is that, what day works best for people in July? And that the suggestions were, I think, the 14th Does anyone have a conflict on the 14th?
So the 14th for a board meeting at night, because she'd given us retreats through the week of 7/6. So
That's a different thing. There's two things we need to
Oh,
set. One
okay.
is a retreat and one is just a regular board meeting. Let's start with the regular board meeting. That might be easiest.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. So we could do a 7 p.m. meeting on the 14th or 7:30 as we normally do. With a closed session at 6, I guess, if we need it. Does that work for everyone?
Just want to wonder as a long-term goal. I know we've been locked into 7:30. I know that
No, it's actually a short one.
I know that some of our meetings can go long, and wonder if we'd consider starting at 7 over the summer and just on a trial basis.
I agree with that.
Should we try that? To maybe if we need closed, we can do it at 6 and then regular at 7.
Okay.
Okay. 6 with 7 on the 14th. You got that, Matt? Is that good?
Yes, July 14th, correct?
Okay. So, and then the question is, the week of July 6th, Barry has said he'd like to have a retreat with us, and we'd like to block 5 hours. We may not use the whole 5 hours, but we'd like to do that. And we'd like to invite staff to part of it. I think we have to figure out where we can find a block. And that could be on an evening. I would assume for our friend, many of us have work, so it's probably easiest if we do it in the evening. Or we could do it on Saturday, the 11th. I don't know how people feel.
I don't have to work on that day. So I don't want to be the one that forces people into a set like days matter. But
I know, really.
And I'm
don't
actually
put
not,
it on a weekend on my account.
and I'm not available that Saturday, the 11th, but go for it if everyone else is.
Well,
what does Friday the 10th look like? Like if we maybe even do it 5 hours from like 9 to 2.
During the day on Friday?
Yeah, if I know we have some people who have regular work hours.
I'm good.
Okay.
You're good?
And I know Jess has got a heavy load, but
What's the date we're looking at now?
It's July 10th, Friday.
For 5 hours during the day?
About 4 3/4.
Because we're going to ask our staff to join us as well. It's nice to do it when they're, during their hours as well.
Okay.
Could we start at 8? Is that too early?
Or do you prefer us to start later and
Yeah.
4?
Is like noon to 5 better, Jess?
Yeah, the morning I won't be able to do, but I could do it by the afternoon if I know now.
So what do you think?
Would noon to 5 work?
Noon to 5 could work right now. Yeah, if we block that.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Barry, would that work for you?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. And then
Okay.
if we can block
That's
that.
definite or that's maybe?
No, I think we're going to say that's definite.
Okay.
And I think Barry has some ideas about some maybe facilitation we might have for just a piece of it. And then we might invite some of the staff in, but I think we'll talk about that and come back to the board on how we structure it.
And Beth, just as a clarification, I'm not sure when New Jersey's going to move into stages 3 and 4, but
Yeah.
there's an assumption right now that this will be a Zoom.
I'm just wondering, I think we have to stay tuned. I think a 5-hour Zoom is going to be challenging, but we may need breaks. But if it can be distance in person, there may be a way of doing it.
So I just want to wonder whether the date works well in either format for everyone.
Yeah, so it doesn't for me. I can't be in person on the 10th. But
oh, you can't. Okay, thank you for the question.
Don't change it for me.
Could we Zoom you in if we're?
Yeah, that's right.
Because now we know we can.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Okay, everyone.
Does that also go for our board meeting on the 14th? Are we thinking evening board meetings are in person?
I don't know yet.
Okay, I wouldn't be in person either, but I'm happy to Zoom in on the 14th.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
I had one other comment. This is more to the public, that Annie's office put out a technology survey this week, and the results are due on Friday. And I just implore all parents in the district, it took me about 30 seconds to answer this survey. You have to answer it separately for each of your children, but it is critical information for us as we plan for the fall. It's information about device technology and internet speed in your home and devices that you have or might be willing to purchase if possible. So I just would ask that everyone please complete that by Friday. Thank you. And thanks to Annie's office for putting that out.
Yeah, for doing that so quickly. All right, is there anything else? Otherwise, can I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah, Susan, second. Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.